Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jasmine talking to you all the way from Quezon City. Today, I am joined by...
Good day, everyone! Joining Jasmine today is yours truly. I am Bea, all the way from Mabalacat, Pampanga. Hey Jas, I heard we'll be talking about quite a lot of stuff today.
That is so right, partner. But before we hop right on to our Chika Hand session for today, let me ask first our audience a question. Have you ever wondered how words became words? If that left you thinking,
Then I guess it's time to begin today's talk. Take it away, partner!
to start our Chika Hand session, let's first talk about what is a word. A word is composed of jumbled letters or letters arranged in an arbitrary sense, and it is the simplest unit of communication in a natural language. And these words are indispensable means of communication. It means without words, there will be no concepts formed. And without concepts formed, there will be no various knowledge to be asserted. And without these knowledge concepts or knowledge claims, arguments cannot be composed. So what is a concept? A concept is made up of ideas overall. And it is because made of ideas, it cannot be composed of words, or otherwise you will be identifying the word as the concept it represents. And the ability to form concepts is an intelligible and natural part of us, a part of us being human. Without the ability, knowledge, and human life would be impossible. So how are concepts formed? According to John Locke, all things that exist in the world are particulars. For example, if you take a handful of sand and try to name every bit of the sand, it is impossible. You cannot do it because it is not possible for you to give every particular a proper name. And even if you do, and even if you can, it is not practical because there are too many. So according to Locke, general terms were invented because it is impossible for every particular to have a proper name. So Locke invented a word to refer to this process. It is called the abstraction. So as we notice a characteristic common to a group of particulars, a general idea is formed. Take for instance, or for example, the handful of sand that you have. You notice a common characteristic for every particulars in the sand, maybe because of the color white. So consequently, the general idea, white sand, becomes the general term you invent to refer to your handful of sand. To express a concept, a word or a group of words is used. Philosophers refer to the word as a term. For example, a cat is a word to express a concept. And in contrast, the King of France is a group of words also used to express a concept. The cat and the King of France should be properly called terms. Terms are verbal means of expressing what we know through concepts. While the concepts that we have are not made up of letters, the terms that are used to express these concepts are made up of letters. You see, concepts are native to our intellect. They are our means for aspiring knowledge. There are two terms, or two types of terms that are used for a concept, to express a concept. These are the simple terms and the complex terms. For the simple terms are made up of a single word. The examples are cat, dog, a bat, and a bird. And then for the next one, the complex terms are made up of several words. Like we said earlier, the King of France, the author of Waverley, and the Morning Star. Those are complex terms. Concepts are the building blocks of our knowledge. Yet, they are hardly imaginable to exist, except in our minds, of course. Thus, without the ability to form concepts, human knowledge will not be possible. This is how important words and concepts are. This is why they are the basic units of philosophical analysis and critical thinking. Hey Bea, I also heard that you got some things in your pocket for today. Isn't that right, partner?
Yes, that is absolutely right.
Do us the honor. Take it away.
Thank you, Jazz. So, let us now begin with the second part of today's session. Every term expressing a concept is analyzable from two aspects. Number one, you may identify of the kind of things that are members of the domain of the concept. This is called the extension. Second, you may specify the trait or set of traits, characteristics, or even functions shared by the members, which is called the intention. To further understand the philosophical use of terms, let us use this illustration. The concept of a bat denotes all the individual animals, regardless of size, shape, or color. It won't matter if the bat is very small or very large, if it has several feet or no feet at all. All are members of the extension of the concept bat. On the other hand, in analyzing the intention of the concept, you have to state the traits or set of traits, characteristics, or the functions that make bats different from the rest of the animal kingdom. This can be a single trait, or a function that is held in common, or a set of traits that are unevenly distributed to the members of the extension. In short, we must pay attention to the single trait or set of traits and characteristics those members of the extension must share. When the intention of a concept becomes very precise and clearly defined, it becomes an essential property. This means that the possession of a single trait is the necessary and sufficient condition to qualify one to be a member of the extension of the concept. To illustrate, let us use the concept of mammals as an example. To be called a mammal, one must possess a single physical trait, mammary glands. Without these glands, one cannot be considered a mammal. If there is no essential property held in common by all the members, the concept cannot be meaningful. This is essentialism. In Wittgenstein's book, Philosophical Investigations, he challenged the essentialist view that for a general term to be meaningful, there must be an essential property held in common by all the members. To illustrate, he used his famous example of games. What single trait or characteristic is common to board games, card games, ball games, and Olympic games? It is only when we actually start looking and seeing where we'll find that essential property is not held in common by all the activities we call games. Instead, what we will discover are a complicated network of similarities, overlapping and crisscrossing, sometimes even overall similarities, and sometimes similarities of detail. With this being said, Wittgenstein did not find a single essence to characterize all games. Instead, what he discovered was a multifarious relationship. He coined this complicated network as family resemblance. To summarize the second part of our talk, concepts are analyzed in terms of extension and intention. Extension consists of the members, while the intention consists of either an essential trait that all members must have, or a family resemblance of traits and characteristics that does not need to be distributed evenly to all members. Let us now proceed with the third part of today's talk. Let me ask you a question. When does a word take its meaning? Philosophers agreed that it is through the way in which people who belong to the same verbal community use it, either orally or in written form. On the other hand, according to Wittgenstein, the meaning of a word is its use in the language. There are numerous ways of using words. It can serve as a name for people, places, or things. It can be combined usefully to form a sentence that expresses a command, a wish, or an intention. It can be used to form a question or offer an explanation. Wittgenstein's theory of meaning needs a more precise clarification. By the use of a word, he meant actual uses of words by real people in actual linguistic contexts. He wasn't the biggest fan of the artificial uses of language, which, according to him, are used often by philosophers. I have another question for you. How then do we determine the meaning of a word? To determine the meaning of a certain word, we must identify how the word is used in a particular language game. To understand the meaning of a word is to understand how it is used in a given language. According to lexicographers, words have history. A word comes to being when it is used for the first time. To further illustrate, let us use this example. The word hand. Give him a helping hand. Give her a hand with the luggage. The audience gave Cha a big hand. Please hand me the hammer. See, all of those sentences use the word hand, but they differ in terms of the way they use the word. When the same use of the word becomes integrated in numerous language games, it becomes the conventional or standard use of a term. In some instances, a word may acquire many different uses in different language games. Thus, it becomes ambiguous. And when a term is used so loosely in many language games, it becomes vague. Words may be reborn and used again. For example, Latin terms are reborn and used respectively as scientific terms in various sciences. When people often utter the same word but are using them in different ways, they turn out to be pointless. These are called useless controversies. The cardinal rule states that one must never take part in any discussion or verbal dispute in any subject matter with anyone unless one is sure that both are using the same word in the same way. Let me ask you one last question. Have you ever engaged in a discussion where you felt like the two of you are not on the same page? Then this rule applies for you. Remembering the cardinal rule is the best way to avoid useless controversy and even misunderstanding. When carrying a discussion or debate with your friends, try to determine whether you are using words in the same way. Ask them, what do you mean by that? In what sense are you using that word? To put a lid on the third part of this discussion, to avoid useless controversy, never forget the cardinal rule in critical thinking. That would be all for the second and the third part of today's discussion. Hello? Hello? Jazz, are you still with me?
Hello. Of course I am.
Whew, that was quite a lot of new learnings, but it doesn't end there yet. Brace yourselves for today's last session. With this, I am once again giving the floor to my partner, Go, Jazz!
So let's go forward to the last module, which is module 4, the classification of concepts. There are 7 types of concepts, and we will try to explain each one of them in the simplest way possible. To start with the classifications of concepts, let us start with empirical concepts. Empirical concept is where the members of the extension of a concept can be observed in the world. From the word empirical, it is based on and concerned with or verifiable by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. For the second type of concept, it is the theoretical concept. Theoretical concepts cannot be readily observed to exist in space and time by the unaided sense. Unlike the empirical concept, where you can verify if an object is observable or not without any use of electric devices, theoretical concept entities are only observable using sensory extending devices like the electron microscope. There are 2 types of sensory extending devices. These are the radio telescope for observing galaxies that are said to be 40 million light years away from Earth, or it is called the macro universe, and the microscope or electron microscope used to observe micro universe, the world of microorganisms like viruses and diseases and cells and whatnot, electrons and the next type of concept is the dispositional concept. Dispositional concepts do not designate a directly observable trait or characteristic that members have, but are exhibited only if certain operations are performed. These are some of the hybrid concepts that came from the sciences. These are the elastic, magnetic, temperature, and many more. For example, to determine if an object is magnetic, we have to perform a certain operation like putting some iron fillings near the object, and then if the iron fillings adhere to the object, then you know that the object is magnetic. This operation constitutes the definition of a dispositional concept, as you will discover later. The next type of concepts is the evaluative concept. Evaluative concepts are a judgment of the words or value of a person, act, behavior, event, place, and etc. They fall into the category of moral, aesthetic, or even religious. The concepts of right or wrong, moral or immoral, good or bad, fall under the category of the moral concept. The beauty and the ugliness fall under the aesthetic concept. Heaven and hell are under the concept of religiousness. Another type of concept is the fictitious concept. Fictitious concepts are purely imaginary or made up in our minds. For example, or examples of this concept are the mythology and the fairy tales, which are solely used as a unique source of entertainment. The next classification of concepts is the abstract concept. Abstract concepts are those entities which cannot be found in the world. They are neither tangible nor visible, unlike the empirical concepts, and they are just creations of our minds. An example of this is the concept of numbers. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, up to infinity are all abstract concepts. Number 1 is a set with 1 member, number 2 with 2 members, number 3 with 3, so on and so forth. But what about 0? 0 is a set with no members. As an analytic concept, the members of the extension are not empirical objects. Another example of the analytic concept is the concept of the circle. The intention of this concept is very precise and clearly delineated, but are not observable at all. For example, if you want to find the infinite number of points equidistant from the center of the circle, you cannot find it at all because it is not observable, or it is unobservable. This means that circles that you've been drawing are not genuine members of the extension of the abstract concept, which is the circle. They are just approximation pedagogical devices to help you understand the extension of an abstract concept. Analytic concepts are just abstract entities that subsist only in our minds. When you're doing your formal sciences like logic, geometry, and mathematics, you are dealing with analytic concepts. Analytic concepts are powerful tools in the sciences, provided that you do not confine abstract concepts for empirical ones. For the last type of concept is metaphysical concept. So from the word of metaphysics, metaphysics is a type of philosophy or study that uses the broad concepts to help define reality and our understanding of it. If you use it in concepts, we will have the examples of concepts of substance, like God, mind, and matter, where the intentions of the concept of the mind, it is an entity that is fundamental, it is immaterial, it has no weight, no mass, it does not exist, yet it is believed to exist in time. Another metaphysical concept offered by the idealist philosophers is called the absolute. It is characterized as a universal mind, and as such, it is composed of the totality of the minds, past, present, and to come, together with all their ideas. And so, we are all part of one reality, which is the absolute. There are times that the status of a concept is difficult to determine. So it is better for us to use a quick but reliable method for determining types of concepts. This method is called the Intra and Intersubjectivity test. These are the tests used in epistemology and in all the sciences. To illustrate these two tests, let us use an example. I have an angel made up of the purest crystal that is almost invisible. The angel is visible only to me. If I touch it, it emits a sound that only I can hear. I can smell and taste it too. I am the only one who can identify and re-identify the angel whenever I want. Now, if I want to tell other people about the angel, but they cannot see or touch it the way I do, then it only passes the intersubjectivity test and not the intersubjectivity test. With this, we can identify what type of concept the angel is. I want to know if the angel is empirical, but it only passed one test. Then the angel is not empirical. To know if the concept is empirical, it must pass both intra and intersubjectivity tests. Now, if the angel does not pass both subjectivity tests, then it is purely fictional. The angel is from the imagination or made up in your imagination. And finally, we are putting the lid on today's fruitful learning experience. We sincerely hope that you all learned new things today. Again, this has been Jasmine.
And this has been Bea, wishing you all a pleasant day ahead. Till the next.
Till the next!